Morning to you, and thanks for stopping by.
Good morning.
Okay, so Secretary of State, there to press on to the Prime Minister al-Maliki, you need to be more inclusive. How will it be different with him there saying this?
Well, I think at this moment, unfortunately, we're grasping for straws, and I think that what Maliki has failed to do was to be inclusive, and in my opinion, he's part of the problem, not part of the solution. But he is there. He was elected democratically. And we have to deal with him. So what we have to try to convince him to do is try to have a coalition so that Iraq doesn't break up. But at this point, it looks like that's a long shot.
Well, as the Secretary of State might be intimating, they might be looking at the next step, the new Prime Minister. Is that part of his strategy here? Is he's there with leadership from the Kurds, from Sunnis and Shiites?
Well, I think his strategy is to say that the United States, first of all, is not going to get militarily involved with boots on the ground. That is not an option. Nobody wants that. I don't want that. Right. The president doesn't want that. I think he's telling Maliki that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, try to be inclusive, we're not going to support you.
And part of that here, Congressman, as we speak, U.S. Navy planes conducting surveillance missions over Iraq, up to 300 U.S. Special Forces, as we see here, being deployed as advisors. A new poll out this morning on top of that showing a deeply divided public, 50% saying the U.S. does not have a responsibility to do something about the recent violence in Iraq, 42% saying the U.S. should do something. You support the president's military actions so far, but what's your case to the 50% who say we shouldn't be going back even if this is a very limited situation, very limited capacity?
Well, I would say that when the Russians were pushed out of Afghanistan many years ago, we didn't go there, and we let it fester. And as a result, we got terrorists and safe havens and al-Qaeda and the Taliban and September 11th, 2001. We cannot allow that to happen in Iraq. If ISIS is left unfettered, they will be planning attacks from Iraqi soil, against the U.S. mainland. So we have to disrupt them. I don't think we have a solution. But we cannot and should not get involved with boots on the ground in a ground war. There are lots of things we can do. And I know that the administration is trying to do it. It won't be easy, but I think we have to work in conjunction with our allies, with our Arab allies. We have a stake in protecting Jordan. We have a stake in lots of things, and I think that it's not an option to ignore it or turn the other way. It really is not an option. We don't want to see another attack on the American homeland.
The Wall Street Journal front page, Mideast splits bedevil West. In an interview with Morning Joe's Mika Brzezinski, the president talked about that difficulty, the challenges in responding to the fast-moving changes in the Middle East. Let's listen to that first.
We're going to have to deal with some of the worst impulses there, the extremism that ISIS represents. What we're not going to be able to do is to play whack-a-mole and chase wherever extremists appear, occupy those countries for long periods of time and think somehow that we're going to solve those problems.
From a foreign policy perspective, then, what's the best option here, you think?
I think the best option is, again, I think, by the way, the president is absolutely right in what he just said. I think the best option is for the United States to work with our allies in NATO, because Europe is a lot closer to the Middle East geographically than the United States is. And this is a spillover from the civil war in Syria, so we've got to try to end that as well as we can. And we have to just try to disrupt ISIS. So again, no boots on the ground. We can't occupy countries, but there are things we can do and that we should be doing.
As the problem seems to grow, as we were reporting with the borders on with Jordan as well as Syria right now. Another headline from the New York Times, it reads, Iraq's military seen as unlikely to turn the tide. So, Congressman, it's a troubling headline. Military experts telling the Times that about a quarter of Iraq's military forces there are combat ineffective, 1 out of 4. Its air force is minuscule, and it also says its troop morale is low. How could that happen based on the investments? It's a question you've heard that the United States has made, not only in training, but also in money.
Well, it's a very good question, and it's very disheartening to see Iraqi trained troops, we saw that a few days ago, abandoning their posts and just letting ISIS run all over. I think that, again points to the fact, we went into Iraq on a lie. We were told that there were weapons of mass destruction by Saddam Hussein. We were fed faulty intelligence information. and we need to be very, very careful. But it's a fact. I mean, I think Iraq will probably break up. You know, these are the old colonial drawings of nations, and there's nothing that says it has to stay that way. You've got the Shias, you've got the Sunnis, and you've got the Kurds, and if they don't want to live together, we cannot force them to do it.
So you echo Vice President Joe Biden's sentiment on that, a potential breakup as being a solution here. I thank you for your time today, Congressman Eliot Engel. Appreciate that.